The following program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information. Tonight on Sightings, are these voices from beyond the grave? Are these photographs proof that ghosts exist?
What we saw, we were able to get on film.
And has this man contacted his dead child with his video camera?
It's an opportunity to witness things that we've been taught all our life cannot be.
What are ghosts? Are they the souls of the dead? Spirits lost on the road to another plane? Or merely random collections of energy? And do they exist? Hello, I'm Tim White. I'll be your host.
At that point, it started to appear.
They had large, dark eyes, claw-like hands.
I began sensing and knowing and feeling.
I do believe in life after death. I mean, I've been there.
We have not scratched the surface of what the mind can do.
It's a connection with the unknown.
Whatever they are, whatever you call them, ghosts, spirits, shades, specters, apparitions, there is not a corner of the world they do not inhabit. From this haunted castle in England to this haunted house in Hawaii, a Bavarian monastery, an Italian apartment, mansions in the south, taverns in the west, from this farmhouse all the way to the White House, we have a fascination with ghosts.
But I have to tell you, I am puzzled, because every once in a while, our little dog Rex will start down that long hall toward that room, just glaring as if he's seeing something and barking, and he stops in front of Lincoln's door, the bedroom door, and would not go in the room.
One of the most interesting things about this phenomena is that it's not culturally dependent. For example, leprechauns are seen only in Ireland, gargoyles in Eastern Europe, but haunting or ghost phenomena has been reported in all cultures since the beginning of time.
How do you turn myth and legend into scientific fact? The search for photographic evidence has produced many hoaxes, but a handful of pictures defy explanation. Startling images, spectral apparitions. Are these people from the past trying to make contact with the present?
There's a lot of fraud in this, there's a lot of imagination, there's a lot of wishful thinking. But when you strip that all out, there's about 20% hardcore stuff that is exceedingly difficult to explain.
Within that 20%, haunted Longleat Castle in England. In 1965, a film crew in search of a ghost set up an infrared movie camera. After hundreds of hours of filming, they captured this extremely rare moment, a light emerging from one door and disappearing into another.
All the lighting conditions were controlled. The windows were blacked out. There was no possibility of moonlight or car headlights or anything coming through. When we saw the stuff later, there was this shaft of light, which is, to me, is completely unexplainable.
And indeed, this paranormal phenomenon has remained unexplained for 35 years.
Coming up next, the horrifying real-life investigation that led to the best-selling thriller and motion picture, The Entity.
What we saw, we were able to get on film.
And later, are these voices from beyond the grave?
In the quest for evidence, two researchers from UCLA got more than they bargained for. Kerry Gaynor and Dr. Barry Taff were witness to one of the most celebrated cases in ghost hunting history, the Entity case. It was later popularized in a book and a film called The Entity. But what the real investigators found when they met the victim of the haunting was more bizarre and more compelling than any movie.
When I went over to her house, we conducted about a 2-hour interview, and during that time, she told us a lot of interesting experiences, but I knew she was holding something back. And at the end of the interview, she finally admitted to us that she was attacked and raped by the ghost. At that time, we thought she was probably crazy.
The events that then transpired over the next 10 weeks were chronicled in the Journal of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, including the night the investigators went from being skeptics to true believers.
The lady screamed out, "It's in my bedroom." We ran in there. She shouted out, "It's over in the corner." We fired our Polaroid camera in the direction that she said. We didn't see anything, but the picture came out bleached out white completely. She shouted out again, "It's in the corner." Again, we fired our camera, and it was bleached out completely. At that point, I thought the camera was just malfunctioning. I waited till she said it was gone, and I took 2 control pictures. Those pictures are perfectly normal pictures. The only difference, she said it was in the corner in the first ones, and in these, she said it was gone. A few moments later, we felt a cold breeze of air coming through the door, accompanied by a horrible stench, a stench so foul, some people were vomiting. We fired the camera in the direction that that breeze was flowing towards us, and again, the picture was bleached out completely, except at the bottom of the doorway, you can see a little round ball of light. A few minutes later, she screamed out, "It's right in front of my face." We fired the camera, and the face was completely obliterated. You can see the curtains behind her. You can see her dress. She shouted out again, "It's right in front of my face." Again, the face is completely obliterated. Now, those were her exact words. "It's right in front of my face." Once again, I wanted a control picture. I waited till she said it was gone, and I took the final picture. And this is a perfect, normal picture. It's just dark because we didn't adjust the setting. There's a scratch on it, which we put on it when we tried to clean it a little bit. But otherwise, it's a normal picture. The only difference between these two, in one, she said it was in front of my face. In the other one, she said it was gone.
Even with these pictures, Gaynor still had trouble convincing his colleagues at UCLA that he was onto something significant.
Initially, they would say, "Well, you're hallucinating." So then I would look at them and say, "Well, we've got 20 witnesses." And they would say, "Well, then it's obviously mass hallucination."
Gaynor returned to the house a number of times, bringing more witnesses with him, and the eerie phenomenon became even more pronounced.
We started seeing balls of light lighting up the walls, and everybody in the room would see this. And the lights would get bigger and bigger and brighter and brighter. And at some point, I finally started talking to it. And I said, "Well, if you're really here, come off the wall," because what I was concerned was that somebody in the room was faking it, and they were projecting the light onto the wall. Well, when I asked that question, the light lifted off the wall, floated into the middle of our room, started spinning and twisting and expanding in different directions simultaneously. It had full parallax. We could see it from all sides, and I had 9 professional photographers set up in the room that were shooting it from all sides.
The lights came in, it was like, it almost come in like in a state of anger. It almost came, all right, here I am, this is me. And it came in, it kind of did a little thing in the group, and then it was gone.
It was the most extraordinary thing we've ever come across. It happened over and over again. We experienced a plethora of phenomena during that investigation.
The part that interested me the most was the fact that what we saw, we were able to get on film.
The photographers at that session had only limited success capturing the entity on film, with one notable exception.
What we see here are reverse arcs of light. One arc goes right here, another arc goes right here. Now, the reason this picture is so important to us is that the arc on the wall, if it were really on the wall, would be bent, because those 2 walls there are perpendicular. It's not bent, which means the arc is floating in space. The significance for that for us as researchers is, of course, that means it's dimensional and very, very difficult to fake. This was not somebody with a flashlight shining it on a wall. That light is in empty space.
The negative of this photo was authenticated by Popular Photography and was the only alleged ghost photo ever published in the magazine. Frank DeFelitta, the author of Audrey Rose, was also witness to the phenomena. His incredible first-hand experience in the Culver City, California house inspired him to write The Entity, which was later made into a motion picture.
All the instruments started clicking away. So I knew everyone was seeing this at the same time that I was. They were ducking, and everyone was saying, oh my God, look at that, oh my God. And then Doris started screaming. That was the woman who was being belabored by this creature. Started screaming, "I don't want to see your lights, show us yourself. Damn you, show us yourself." She started cursing and swearing at it. And there, lo and behold, at that point, it started to appear. It sort of developed a kind of, a kind of arm was articulated. You could see sort of like an arm, and then a neck. And then, of all things, a kind of bald head. Now, this could have been our imagination, but collectively, we saw the same thing, every one of us. We saw the same thing.
But we don't consider our pictures proof of anything. We consider them part of the struggle to gather evidence to try to understand this phenomenon. During our investigations, we spend thousands of hours trying to be in the right place at the right time. In the entity case, for some reason, we were there. We were there at the right time. And we were experiencing the phenomena over and over again. Although some of the people there found it frightening, I found it very exciting and exhilarating. That's what I'm in this for. It's an opportunity to witness things that we've been taught all our life cannot be. It's a connection with the unknown.
Traditionally, a haunting is associated with a place, but investigators in the entity case always suspected that this haunting was somehow connected to the woman herself. And in fact, when she fled the house, the entity went with her. For 5 years, the haunting diminished gradually and has now completely disappeared.
Coming up next, researchers who claim they have contacted the dead and captured voices from beyond. And later, has this man made contact with his dead child through a video camera?
In the past, people tried to make contact with ghosts through mediums and spiritualists and seances that were often clearly frauds. Today, investigators are taking a much more high-tech approach. A worldwide organization of over 300 researchers is now working in the area of EVP, electronic voice phenomena, where voices, supposedly from ghosts, have been imprinted directly on audio recording tape.
Please try to speak. Please try to give us a message. Please tell me who is here. Please try to give us your name. The time is 11:50 a.m. Sarah Estep recording.
Sarah Estep is the founder of the American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena. She considers herself a modern medium, attempting to capture the voices of the dead on audio tape.
The microphones are yours. Here is with me. I'm recording voices from other dimensions. I started a little over 15 years ago. As a psychical investigator, I was very skeptical about the phenomena, but I decided to try it and see if I could get voices, and I did after 7 days. I started picking up voices on my own, and I have continued ever since.
EVP recorders worldwide conform to exacting standards to eliminate the possibility that their machines are simply picking up ambient sound or radio signals, and only new, commercially packaged tape is used. Surprisingly, the ghostly voices are not audible during the actual recording process. They're only discovered later, when the tape is played back. And in some cases, the voices are recorded on the reverse side of the tape. Generally, the words are only heard once. We are repeating them here for clarity. The voices are often recorded at places that are reputed to be haunted. The Westminster Church and Burying Ground in Baltimore is one of the oldest in America. Many of the graves here date back to the 1700s. Edgar Allan Poe is buried here, alongside his young wife, Virginia. Beneath the church, catacombs reach deep into the earth. According to parish records, many of the people entombed here met a violent death. Legend has it the place is haunted. When Sarah Estep came to the catacombs, she recorded these voices.
I was here a few years ago, and I picked up the message. We leave the soul right down here.
Would like to speak. Would love to hear from you. Send a message for us.
Well, there's a skull right down. Well, there's a skull right down.
Point Lookout Light stands on an open promontory on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay. Many instances of paranormal phenomena have been reported in this desolate place, events that may reflect the area's tragic past. During the Civil War, 50,000 Confederate prisoners captured at Gettysburg were held here, forced to endure freezing cold, disease, and starvation. Thousands died and were buried in mass graves near the lighthouse.
The prisoners were brought here largely by steamboats and were made to walk along the sandy beach up to Fort Lincoln, where they were then turned inland and marched to the prison pen. Over 50,000 Confederate prisoners made this march, and for over 4,000 of them, it was the last march they made since they died prisoners of war.
This has to be one of the places that I've investigated that it's just the whole area is just full of activity. It's not just localized to one building or one spot on the grounds. It includes the whole area. I've never come in contact with anything like that before.
The phenomena at Point Lookout seem to follow one of the classic patterns of a haunting. Some ghost researchers suggest that highly charged emotions from the past may actually become imprinted on the environment. And in fact, many people have reported seeing apparitions in uniform, recalling Point Lookout's tragic Civil War history.
When I was driving, I saw a figure of a man dressed in long pants and a gray coat run across the road behind me. It was actually where many thousands of the Confederate soldiers were actually buried. I immediately returned, and when I got to where I'd seen him cross the road, there was no trail coming out of the woods on one side of the road, nor trail into the woods on the other side, nor was there any sign of the anybody in the area. This has happened different times, always on the same section of road. I've never been able to explain this occurrence.
Over the years, many paranormal investigations have been drawn to Point Lookout. Photographer Ron Stallings took this picture inside the lighthouse. Next to Nancy Stallings is what appears to be the faint image of a man in uniform. Electronic voice phenomena has been recorded in several locations inside the lighthouse. The basement seems to be the focus of this activity. Some scientists believe EVP may be caused by the researchers themselves imprinting on the tape through psychokinesis, or as the result of electronic interference. But there is one aspect of EVP that defies explanation: when the recorder asks a specific question and gets a direct answer.
Here in the basement of the lighthouse, I recorded the clear voice of a young boy that said, "I was seeing the war." Were you a soldier here?
I will see no more. I will see no more.
Coming up next, a man who claims to have contacted his dead child with his video camera and recorded it on tape.
To deny the existence of ghosts is easy. Skeptics say, "I'll believe it when I see it," and walk away. But the people we've met tonight can't just walk away from what they've experienced. Those who have had a paranormal experience remember it for the rest of their lives. But for some, the experience changes their lives forever. Driven by his own experience, Klaus Schreiber has become a leader in the field of paranormal video phenomena, PVP. At his home in Luxembourg, Schreiber points his video camera at the blank screen of a TV, which is on but not set to any channel. He sends the picture of that blank screen from his camera into the TV and begins videotaping. So he is essentially shooting a picture of a picture of a picture into infinity. Nothing appears on the screen while he's shooting, and nothing shows up on tape until he views it one frame at a time. What he discovers then are seemingly unexplainable images of human faces.
There's already my calling coming. There she is on the right-hand side. There she is. Hold her.
The images are truly startling, but the most shocking one of all is a face that Schreiber is convinced is that of his deceased 17-year-old daughter. He believes she is trying to communicate with him. There are as yet no explanations for the images Schreiber finds on the videotape, but others who have repeated the experiment have gotten similar results. PVP is one of the newest methods employed by those seeking a window into another world. And it's still extremely controversial within the field of paranormal research. But Klaus Schreiber isn't deterred by skeptics, because his is a personal mission. He's not just trying to make contact with the afterlife. He's searching for one specific person he thinks he'll find there. For those like Klaus Schreiber, who believe that they've experienced the paranormal, a desire to understand what's happened is often felt on a deeply emotional level. Those who investigate the paranormal are driven by different needs, a scientific desire to find explanations to the seemingly unexplainable, and in the process, to perhaps find the answer to mankind's deepest question. Is there some form of life after death?
I know we live in an age where people say, oh, it's all nonsense. Well, it's not all nonsense. There's something still left that needs explaining, which science at the moment doesn't seem to want to look at.
I find it fascinating that we might be able to continue on after death. I find it fascinating that people might be able to move objects with their mind, that we can pick up information recorded into the environment potentially.
To ignore it is to retreat into ignorance. To pursue it is to pursue one of the most baffling, enigmatic mysteries that we have ever confronted about the nature of our being. And in so doing, I think we have an opportunity to take a quantum leap in our understanding of ourselves, indeed, in our understanding of reality itself.
The people who have been touched by the ghost experience wonder why it's happening to them. And investigators continue to search for answers. Their research and technology point to the fact that something is there. Just what that something is has yet to be determined. For Sightings, I'm Tim White. Good night.
Next time on Sightings. Are they just the stuff that legends are made of, or the world's most elusive and frightening creations?
We knew right off the bat it had to be some kind of a monster in the lake.
Monsters on the next Sightings.
See why the summer of '92 may just be the hottest ever, as supermodel Cindy Crawford and in living colors Tommy Davidson host the Fox MTV Guide to Summer '92.
Hi, I'm Cindy Crawford.
And I'm Tommy Davidson.
We'll take you behind the scenes of the summer's hottest movies,
hottest TV shows,
and the hottest tours.
Join us for the Fox MTV Guide to Summer '92.
Sunday night on Fox.
Now stay tuned for Hidden Video, next.